Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our virtual vacation in our Eat, Drink, Travel community. If you can pop in the
I
chat,
haven't eaten, just so you know.
everybody, where you're joining us from. That will be great. I'm going to share my screen here. All right. Oh, Mark from Maryland. Welcome back, Mark. Thanks for joining us this evening. All right, don't be shy. Don't be shy. I see people coming in. Candace Stearns here from Eat Drink Travel Detroit, Metro Detroit area. So if you're joining us for the first time, it looks like we have someone from Scotland. Delia from Scotland. Okay, it's late or early in the morning over there, right? Welcome. Not sure if there's anybody else who wants to say hi, but you can go ahead and list in the chat for us. I'm so excited to share with everyone this evening.
And I have a live in-person guest.
Hi.
This is my friend Haley. She's from my networking group here in Denver, or the Denver and Greater Denver area. And and since we're kind of in a live in-person place, she's going to be on the presenter with me.
Wonderful. Well, welcome. It looks like we have a few more people just coming in here, so we're just going to give it another minute. Let me introduce myself again for those of you that are just now popping on and joining. I'm Candace Stearns of Stay Balanced Travel, one of the 5 Eat, Drink, Travel meetup community hosts. And we also have Heidi from Benvenuto Travel. She's from the greater Denver area. And then Angela, if you want to pop on and introduce yourself.
Yep. Hi, I'm Angela Isherwood. I'm from the Eat, Drink, Travel community in Wisconsin, the Lake Country community. And I'm looking forward to Candace's presentation.
Great. So it's a little after 8, so let's just get started. If you joined us, we will be recording the session, as we mentioned, on all of our materials. So we will be doing that. So you don't have to worry about that. But let's just get started here. Uh-oh. Let me move this. We had a little box pop up. There we go. All right, so here is who we are again. For those of you who are joining us for the first time this evening, welcome back to anyone who has been with us in the past. We started this Eat, Drink, Travel community back in April of last year during the pandemic, when those of us who are lovers of travel were basically grounded, for lack of a better way of putting it. And we didn't like the idea of not being able to take some of the vacations and see the world like we normally do. So we started a virtual vacation series that we've been running ever since last year. At the beginning of 2021, when we were able to start traveling about, we decided to kind of turn these vacations, these virtual vacations, into also some meetup opportunities. So those of you who've always joined us virtually know that if you're in one of the areas that we have our little meetup groups, we are starting to host local community meetups for people who love all things culinary, adventure, and travel. So Angela introduced herself. Heidi, of course, is in person in the Denver area. Maria Stephanopoulos could not be with us this evening. She's from A Genius Travel, and she's from the greater Tampa Bay area. How you can find us on all things social media and YouTube is our private Facebook groups, Take a Virtual Vacation, Eat, Drink, Travel, YouTube channels. All of this information we're going to go ahead and pop in the chat at the end, and then you can always click on the 3 little dots in the corner of the chat box and hit save, and you can save this information. And then we're going to just jump right in to our presentation this evening. We're going to be talking about the islands of Hawaii. And for those of you who've never been, hopefully this can give you some insight specifically on Maui and Oahu, because those are the 2 islands that I chose to visit just a couple weeks ago. We actually, my family and I traveled August 2nd through the 13th. And this was a milestone graduation trip for my oldest son, Sam, who graduated from high school last year. Instead of doing parties and money and things like that, our family likes to celebrate milestones that happen in our lives through celebration trips. And that is a specialty that I work with a lot of my clients on, are celebration trips, whether it be 50th birthday parties or graduations like my son. So I thought it was a great opportunity to showcase what's going on right now in Hawaii. We won't be able to hit on all of the islands this evening because there's just way too much information. But the reason why I went to Maui first and then went to Oahu was because prior to this spring, April timeframe, all of the islands of Hawaii, for their safe protocol procedures, would have you COVID test if you were flying inter-island. So if you were flying from Maui to Kauai or Kauai to the Big Island and so on and so forth, you would have to COVID test, even if you were vaccinated. They did make some changes to that recently, and now if you're vaccinated, you don't have to have COVID tests, or if you're flying to the island of Oahu, you will not have to COVID test to do the inter-island flights. And so that was one of the reasons why I chose to fly into Maui from the Detroit airport area, because I'm in Michigan. And at the time I booked the flights, if I would have flown into Oahu first, I would have had to present a COVID test and then go to Maui, and then from Maui going back to Oahu, I would have had to present another COVID test within 72 hours. So we selected to go to Maui first, which I don't always recommend you do, but that's the reason why we went to Maui first. And now that the inter-island testings are over, it's not a consideration that you have to do anymore. So we're going to talk about Maui first during the presentation, and then Oahu, and that's why we did it in that particular order. Just to kind of update you on the COVID travel situation, as I mentioned already, the July 8th timeframe is when the governor of Hawaii lifted some of the quarantines and some of the pre-travel testings. If you have been vaccinated, you can upload your information into that Safe Hawaii web program and not have to do a COVID test. So if you haven't been vaccinated, that doesn't mean you can't go. You can simply get a COVID-19 negative test 72 hours before the final time that you're going to be leaving to go to Hawaii, and load that into the system. And I'm going to be sharing with you some of the different protocols and how it all worked. And I'll be sharing some pictures and things too. Okay, so what is the safe travel process and how does it work? Every adult 18 or older has to create their own account on the travel.hawaii.gov website. And for me for having a few lines in here. I was having issues with my Canva template. When you create your trip online, you have to go in and put obviously the dates you're going to be going, your flight numbers, your hotel information. If you're vaccinated, you upload your CDC vaccination card to the account. If you're not vaccinated, then you have to upload a COVID-19 test that's not more than 72 hours prior to the departure of the final leg of the flight. There are very specific travel partners that are part of the COVID-19 protocol if you're doing the testing. So you're going to want to go to their website and pull down their preferred partner list at that hawaiicovid19.com travel partners. When I was at the airport specifically landing on August 2nd, we unfortunately saw a family that was in front of us at one of the stations checking in. And both the parents were vaccinated and had their vaccine cards loaded into the system, but their children were under the age of 12 and they were not vaccinated. So of course, the mom had gotten the COVID-19 tests for them. And unfortunately, she went to CVS and didn't select the test that was the approved test. There's 3 or 4 different tests that you can get at CVS specifically, but when you go to the partner website, it specifically says there's only one of the 4 tests at CVS that's actually approved by the Hawaii Safe Travel Program. And unfortunately, she had selected one that was not part of the program, and she was not being allowed in, and they were telling her that she was going to have to quarantine at the hotel the entire trip. So she obviously was not very happy, and they were not budging. So I want to just put that out there because it's very, very important that if you are traveling during this time, that you want to make sure that you go to the right partner list and pick the right stuff. And if you work with a travel advisor, we obviously can send that information to you and help you with that kind of thing. But it's super important that you look over that information and you make sure that you're using the right information because they are checking all of it when you get there. Again, you upload the stuff to the Safe Travel website and then you're on your way. So within 24 hours of your departure, you have to log back into the website. And the website has these little boxes like this that you see down here. And you have to answer a health questionnaire after you apply for the exemption. When you click on the health questionnaire, it's going to ask you some very simple questions that we're all pretty familiar with at this point about, are you running a temperature? Have you been sick? Have you been in the last 14 days? Have these symptoms? Those kinds of things. And you fill out all those questionnaires and then submit it. And then as long as you're within 24 hours of your departure, you will get an email with a QCR code or QR code, and it'll just like this one here that I've been rubbing the, pointing to with the pointer. And that actual QR code is what the airlines use and the people that at the boarding gates when you get off. So it's very much like going through customs now. When you land in Hawaii, you're going to have to show your driver's license or passport. I always travel with a passport. I just find it's easier. And so what the person does is you'll see there's a little log. They look at the log, they pull up your QR code, they verify all the information matches, and then they give you this little plastic card, and you'll see there's a number 3 on my card. That's because my departure and arrival information not only had information for me, but my 2 kids that were under the age of 18. So I was responsible for all my kids' information. And so they put a little number 3 on there so that when people were checking us in, they knew it wasn't just for me, and the papers weren't just mine, they were also for my 2 boys. And so this little QR code and this little picture here, they have you put in your phone and carry with you so that when you get to the hotels or you get to other restaurants or other hospitality places, they can pull that up and you can show them that you've gone through the Safe Travels program, and other companies can verify that information for you. So let's talk a little bit about, after we talked about the protocols, what you should be packing for Hawaii, because I get this question all of the time. And I think most people know, you want to make sure you pack certain items, but some items on this list I wanted to put up because they may not be as obvious. Having a small backpack is a wonderful thing, especially if you're going to Maui or any place that you're going to be hiking or biking. Bug spray. There are these little tiny, like, I don't know if there's sand bugs or if there's little mosquitoes, those kinds of things. But if you're one who gets bit often and little insects like biting you, you're going to want some type of bug spray. Also, it's great to have some type of footwear like hiking shoes along with your sandals. And have a water bottle. It's so crucial when you travel, especially if you're like me, an East Coaster who's going 14 hours to get to a destination. You're going to want to pack your own water bottle and make sure you have that. And of course, a camera, and the flashlight's good because if you ever do a sunrise or sunset tour, it's good to have a flashlight around. And here is my family. This is just me and my oldest son. We were in an exit row in the front of the bus, so to speak. So we were on our flight there. And then this is when we arrived. As soon as you arrived, you went into the boarding area, and then not too long right after you got off the plane is when they started doing the check-ins. And so again, we were in Maui, and Maui's the first one we're going to talk about. We stayed in this Lahaina area up here, and just so you kind of get a lay of the land for Maui, Maui has two west coasts, so to speak. There's the northern, and then there's like this southern west coast area. And then like the road to Hana's over here. And we did something called the West Coast Loop, which is a loop around of this whole little jut out of the island here in lieu of doing the road to Hana. And we'll talk more about that later. But there's lots of things you can do. Maui is kind of a laid back country club resort type atmosphere. A lot of the rich and famous own homes in this area. It's known for its beaches, mountains, lush landscape. Lahaina is the whaler village area, and in the December timeframe, the winter months, you can often see humpback whales. And of course, Maui is also known as one of the best islands for beaches and snorkeling. Lanai and Molokai are part of the Maui County. And we also have the Up-County Maui area too. That's very, very popular. Lanai and Molokai are little day trips, and you can typically work with little ships and boats to have you go for snorkeling tours and things of that nature. And it's a lot of fun, especially for people who love water activities. Maui is great. It can get super windy in the winter months, and actually while we were there, they said it was unusually windy for Maui. So one of the things that you are going to want to make sure you also pack is a windbreaker and or poncho, so that it helps with the wind and or potential rain that could come into play. Some of the Maui hotels and resorts worth mentioning. There's quite a few Virtuoso properties, which all of us travel advisors that are part of the program have amenities that we can get you at no additional fees. The Four Seasons, the Montage, the Ritz-Carlton, the Andes, Wailea Beach Villas, Hani Maui Resorts, the Hyatt Regencies, all wonderful places to stay. Most of them are all family related too, so you can bring kids of all ages, and they have beach areas, of course. Tons and tons of dining on Maui. There is an app that I highly recommend if you're going to Maui. It's called Maui Happy Hour. There's no cost to it. You can pick it up in the Google Play or the App Store for the iPhones. And Maui's happy hours are typically what I consider early for happy hour. From 3 to 5 is typically when they have their happy hour. And even all of your resorts typically will have some happy hour. A lot of times they run Mai Tais on special for $6, or a pina colada, or some of their well liquor drinks, and or some of their other specialties that they're known for. So it's worth checking out the app, especially if you're going to spend more than a couple of days, which I very much recommend that you stay at least 5 nights on Maui in order to get everything in if you're going to try and do a lot of things. They have a huge food truck community. And of course, you're going to want to try the Maui tacos, the fish tacos. Mama's Fish House is one of the best places to eat if you want more of a fine dining type experience. Just so you know, fine dining is never super, super stuffy. Like, you don't have to wear suits and ties and all that kind of stuff. Most of the time you can get by with collared shirts and closed-toed shoes for the gentlemen. So, and then of course, I think Maui is one of the best places to do a luau. We did a luau with the Miss of Maui at the Royal Lahaina, and you're going to see some pictures, and I'm going to share some information when we get to that. So this is the Royal Lahaina where I stayed. They have these condo type family units that you can rent, and then they also have more of a traditional hotel style with connecting rooms in the tower area. And our particular hotel room was over here on this other corner, so we looked out straight out over the water, and they have a huge area for weddings, and we saw a wedding every single day while we were there, and it was just absolutely beautiful. This is what the more condo family units that are single stories look like. They have an open terrace area with lounge chairs. And then this is more of what the balcony hotel rooms look like, the Molokai suites and things like that. In this area, they have ice cream, and they do all different kinds of entertaining and things during the day and the evening. We just so happened to catch a rainbow. You're going to catch rainbows all the time when you're in Hawaii. So this was the wedding area. This was our layout for our room. This was the view from our room. As I mentioned, we were at the corner area there. The pool area, I can mention, they didn't have restrictions with how close the pool chairs were to each other, and you did not have to wear masks to get out to this pool area on Maui. When we get to Oahu, their safety protocols were a little different, and I think that's because Oahu has the majority of the Hawaiians that live on the island, and everyone lives a little closer. So it is important to know that you still are going to have to wear masks indoors. You do have to wear a mask from anytime you're indoors, and from the hostess to your tables. Once you get to the tables in Maui, they allow you to take your masks off, whether you're eating or not. So that the protocols that were on for dining in the bar area. Again, this is our little lanai area terrace that we had in our room. It looks like I have a hat. This picture was kind of funny, but anyways, this was our specific room. These were the photos. The main king bed with the two double beds. We all three. There was a living area that had its own terrace. Both bedrooms did, and then rooms were a little different. The interesting thing about what happened with us in the bathrooms, in this picture you see a little soap dish, and I did want to mention that right now a lot of the hotels are stretched, not only for staff but also for supplies. When I was at the Royal Lahaina, we were only allowed to have one key per room because they were short on the key cards, and they were charging a $20 lost key fee in the event that you lost your key to your room. So expect that kind of thing everywhere you go in the Hawaiian Islands, just because they're still not back 100% with supplies, and they're still running with some staffing issues. One of the chairs on our Terrace Lanai area here had a little hole in it, and the seat was broken, and we weren't able to get a replacement because they just didn't have one, unfortunately. So these are the kinds of you can expect if you travel right away, probably in pretty much any destination, because she was sharing with me, the front desk lady was sharing with me that everything was back ordered and they were waiting on a lot of different things. With that in mind, you are going to want to make sure you also make reservations, because every place you go to is full, and they have a lot of spacious areas now because they're keeping that 6 feet distancing protocol in place. So they've removed over half of the tables. And so this was an area that was set up for a small little wedding that they were having. This was the bridal table, and then these were some of the guests that were going to be at the same restaurant that we were at. So, you know, be cognizant of the fact that you're going to want to make sure every night you have reservations somewhere if you're accustomed to eating between 6 and 8 o'clock and you don't want to eat early or you don't want to eat late. This was one of the famous little Mai Tais that they would serve during happy hour for $6. And then they always had live entertainment every single night that would start at 5 and go until 10 in the evening. And as you can see, the bar area wasn't very crowded, and neither were the beach area. That was not the case when we were in Waikiki. Waikiki, we were up bright and early every morning to go hawk a chair at the pool. At least I was. So we'll talk more about that when we get there too. One of the very famous things that you can do in Maui is bike down Haleakala, and we of course did that. We biked down the volcano. This was Johnny from Maui Sun Rider Bike Company. They basically take you up to the summit area and you ride all the way down the mountain. When you get to this little area that's down here, right after the little cowboy Panaloa country, there are wonderful little local shops, and I'm going to share some of those pictures with you guys. So this was the top of the summit, and then this was us getting on our bikes, getting ready to go down. These little roads just switchbacked all the way down, and you really didn't have to pedal, which was great. I did wear a GoPro, but I couldn't glean any of the information from the little video in time for today, so I'll spare you that. Those of you who have height situations and aren't too keen on heights probably wouldn't want to see the video anyways. But this was a lot of the scenery that you saw at the top of the mountain. And then when we got down, of course, I'm a foodie, so I have to stop everywhere, and there's a famous cookie lady called the Maui Cookie Lady, and she hand makes these cookies that are very much the shape of a brownie almost. And you can order them online as well, I found out, and they're absolutely fantastic. They're almost like a cookie dough consistency because they're kind of soft in the middle. They're not hard, and they're just absolutely fantastic. And this was one of the little shops that's all along this strip here. So after you bike down the mountain, if you want to stop and get a little bite to eat before you turn the bikes in or whatnot, you can do that. And it was a lot of fun. One of the other things we did was we went deep sea fishing. My husband and my youngest son are anglers. We were hoping to potentially catch a marlin or something really cool. You do have to go out quite a ways into the deep sea in order to catch the big fish. And unfortunately, we came up short on our particular fishing expedition, and you've got to get up early. It's very common to meet the fishermen at like 4 in the morning, Hawaiian time, obviously. But it was just absolutely gorgeous. We were out for 8 hours and we had a ball. It was a lot of fun. This guy's name was Chris and the other guy's name was Jake, and we just had a wonderful time. Let me keep going. Once you're fishing expedition, most of the charters go out of Lanai and Lahaina. What am I saying? Lahaina. And in the little town of Lahaina, there's this beautiful garden park with these banyan trees. And so this whole area's got parking, and then these are all little shops that you can go and visit. So we just quickly stopped and took a quick picture in front of the famous tree. And the tree will grow out and send shoots down, and it's all one giant tree, believe it or not. So it's pretty amazing to see if you've never seen anything like that. We did a luau, as I mentioned, which is also another really popular thing to do when you go to Hawaii. We happen to do the Mists of Maui at the Royal Lahaina. Right now, to try to get into a luau, they're booked all the way through October as of today, and some of November. So if you are going to Hawaii and you're going at Christmas time, you might have some limited capabilities. So make sure you reach out right away and try to secure the luau, because that's going to be one of the hardest things for you to secure if you're planning a trip to Hawaii. This is an amazing sunset, and you get these every single night. It's just a beautiful sunset, and I just wanted to include it. We were there the night of the luau. They had a beautiful sunset, and this was the fire dancer gentleman and a few of the ladies that were part of the show. We skipped the road to Hana to drive a less crowded drive, which I thought is just as beautiful. I've done both the road to Hana and now I've done the West Maui Loop, and the West Maui Loop doesn't have as many waterfalls as the road to Hana. So if you're really into waterfalls, then you're going to want to do the 12-hour road to Hana. But right now you have to have reservations to get on the black sand beach. It's required. And again, they're only letting people with passes and reservations that day in. So if you do the road to Hana and you think you're going to see the beautiful black beach, if you don't have reservations, they won't let you in. So that's really important to know too. And those reservations are sometimes challenging to get. So again, if that's important to you, make sure you book that ahead of time. The West Loop again is on that big chunk like I showed you at the beginning, and we started down here and went all the way around, and there's some beautiful parts that you're going to see in these pictures. And again, it doesn't have as many waterfalls, but it has a blowhole, and it has all different other kinds of things. Oh, I went backwards. Like this. My husband would drive up here near the blowhole every single morning and take photos of the sunrise, because where we were situated on the island, we could only see sunsets. So he had to drive about 15 minutes early in the morning to actually get the sunrise that would come up over this little jut out here. And then this was a real popular snorkeling area. There's 3 main snorkeling areas on Maui, and this one's a great one. A lot of the charters will bring you out. The catamaran snorkeling charters will bring you to this particular area, and it's in Kaanapali as well. And then you can see pretty much every kind of species, and those that are very indigenous to Maui only too. There's a pig-faced fish that's only in the Maui area, and we got to see one when we were snorkeling out in this area. This is one of the famous blowholes. You can hike down and around. It's about probably 15 minutes. And then this area where the yellow flag is it can get, this water comes up, so when it's real windy it can be dangerous, and they tell you not to go down in there, especially if it's super windy, and they'll have signs about it. But it's just absolutely gorgeous. This is one of the other little areas we saw when we were there, and this is part of the West Maui Loop area. The scenery changes as you go up and down in elevation. And there's a golf course that's not too far from here where you can literally golf in this hilly area, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. This is a famous bread woman. She is known as the Banana Bread Lady, and it's a nice little stop where you can pick up some guava, passion fruit juice, and some bread. It's about 25 bucks. And then of course, there's lots of golfing in Hawaii, especially in Maui. There's this PGA course, the Kaanapali Golf Course, and my husband and my oldest son golfed there one of the days. Just beautiful, right on the water. So if you're into golf. And then now we're going to talk a little bit about Oahu. Oahu is known as the gathering place, and this is where Honolulu is, and this is where most people fly in and out, especially if they're coming internationally. We stayed in the Waikiki area, which is down and over here, and my husband did a photo tour all through this area, so you'll see some pictures. Of course, Pearl Harbor's over here, and the largest outdoor mall, the Royal Hawaiian Center, is right along Kanalua Drive or Kanalua Avenue. And it's right in the heart of Waikiki. And that particular area of Hawaii reminds me of Las Vegas or Los Angeles. It's very high rise, lots of shopping, nightlife. Of course, Waikiki Beach is known for its surfing and all the surfers, but Oahu is a very active vibe, very nightlife, and more of a party vibe is how I would explain it if you're going to stay in this Waikiki area. Once you move to the North Shore and up this area, it's more laid back, like a Maui would be. Some of the resort properties that are very popular and that we would recommend, the Royal Hawaiian is right down in the Waikiki area, and it's a bright pink place, and all the locals, when you go fishing and out in the water, use it as a landmark because you can't miss it when you're out in the actual ocean. So they use it as a landmark. The Hyatt Regencies are really nice. I'm sorry that this didn't come through over here where the Turtle Bay Resort area is, but that is listed there, so I'll have to fix that.
When you get to that one, I can speak to that too, because I just had clients that just got back.
Yeah, so did they stay there, Heidi? And
yes, and actually, I did have a little bit of a travel advisor faux pas in that I somehow booked them without realizing that it wasn't open. And so they opened in plenty of time for my clients. And the best part was that it is completely redone. And my clients were grandparents who were taking their 16-year-old granddaughter for her birthday there. How would you like to have them for grandparents? I asked if they'd adopt me.
Right.
And she wanted to surf, and that's why they went to Hawaii. And Oahu, at the time we booked, had the least amount of restrictions, but they didn't want to be in the busy part, the Waikiki.
Sure.
And with everything that I know about the island, the very best place to surf in all of Hawaii is the North Shore of Oahu. So,
Right.
and really the Turtle Bay is the main thing going up there. So
Right.
they loved it. They just had a really great time. There were little things like the spa is not completely open, so they have very few appointments available. I ended up finding an anesthetist, I can never say the word, anesthetician, to give the grandma and the granddaughter facials privately in the room. And then because they were driving from Honolulu Airport, I also got them a rental car, which was hard to come by. Good, another good reason to have a travel advisor doing this. And I put together a road trip for them that kind of took them through the main area where there's the surf, food trucks and that kind of thing, all up on the North Shore there. It's an entirely different vibe than the Waikiki area, for those of you who have been there before and maybe only did the southern part of that island.
I
It's a
would
great vibe.
I would agree. I would agree. The North Shore is much more of a laid back vibe. Um, and we stayed at the Outrigger uh, Beach Resort, and we're just going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. But the Waikiki beach area where my son learned to surf, there's a lot of newbies, which was good for him. But if you're an avid surfer that loves surfing and you know what you're doing, you would probably not like surfing in that little area that my son was surfing in, because there's a lot of surfers who I akin it to learning how to go down the bunny hills when you're first learning how to ski. The surfers don't know how to necessarily steer very well. So,
However, I do want to add to that though, while the North Shore and Turtle Bay is the big heavy duty surfing spot where the big roller killer waves come in the summertime, it's not like that. And the surf schools up there do teach beginner lessons.
oh,
My
good.
my client was a beginner. She had one private and one group lesson, and she did a great job.
Good.
They really had a good time. So I wouldn't hesitate to go up there if you're a beginner. Just know it's better to go as a beginner in the summertime up there,
Right.
and that you want a private lesson, probably the first lesson you have.
Sure. Sure. No, that's a good point. Thanks for adding that, Heidi. Yeah, so it's Oahu's great to learn how to surf, of course. There's museums, there's Pearl Harbor, there's the Polynesian Cultural Center to learn more about the Hawaiians, their culture, the people. And my favorite on this list is the Aloha Food Tour by Lanai Tabura, who happens to be season four's winner of the Great Food Truck Race. And he gave my family a private food tour that we're going to talk about. And then Duke's, why we stayed at Outrigger Waikiki Beach Resort is because of Duke's. Duke's is the famous restaurant and hangout place where the Beach Boys would always be. And my youngest son is a guitarist and musician and just was wanting to hang with the Blue Notes and all the locals, and even the big famous people come into the Blue Note, which is at Duke's, which is actually in the hotel that we stayed at, Outrigger Waikiki Beach Resort. So that's one of the places we stayed. You can learn how to paddleboard and ride one of the famous Polynesian canoes, which we did. And then there's a great farmers market, and I call it a flea market or a swap meet, is what they have, where locals come, and it's like a big place to go if you like shopping, hanging out to see local, people and what's going on. So there's that. Uh, let's see, stayed at the Waikiki Beach Resort, home of the Duke Restaurant. This was out our ocean view, not ocean front. When we booked, all the oceanfront rooms were not available, so we were on the side of the building. This photo is taken from the front of the building. Obviously, it was at the Hula Grill, which was closer. These little yellow canoes that have the sides, you can go out and paddle, and then it's my version of surfing because you basically surf the waves back in after you paddle out, and it's a lot of fun. And you can just rent. These are all public beach areas. Nothing is private in Hawaii. These are all, and so people set up little shops and run little solo entrepreneur shops out of the beach and teach people how to surf and paddleboard and canoe and parasail. And these little catamarans would go out all day long. And the highly sought after Sunset catamaran was booked all of the time. So you have to run down here at 7 in the morning and make sure you do this the very first day you're in Waikiki because they book up quick. We got in on a Saturday, and our first booking we could secure was, I think, Monday afternoon. So just keep that in mind that if you have certain water activities you want booked or surf lessons and you don't do it on the front end, you're going to want to make sure you run down there right away when you get there or work with the concierge or your travel advisor. This used to be what the Club 47 Voyager for the Waikiki looked like. Now you can remove all of these couches and pillows and tables because all they have is the actual seating area for the dining because of the COVID protocols. There's only about half of the chairs in the area to keep the 6-foot distancing. But the nice thing about purchasing the Voyage Club is not only do you get in the morning from 6:30 to 9:30 every day, but you also get appetizers, hot and cold tapas plates, and wine and beer. And this terrace sits right outside of where Duke's is on the beach. And so if you can't get dinner reservations for Duke's like we couldn't because it was booked solid, we could at 4:30 because they're happy hours from 4:30 to 6:30. Be one of the first people in the happy hour area to sit outside on this open deck area and look right down into the Duke's area where they play music, live music every single night. And that's what it looks like. This is where we would sit, and it was right down here where you can't look down and see, but that's where it's at. As I mentioned, Sam learned to surf. My oldest is a huge surfing fan, and he wanted to come to Hawaii so he could learn how to surf. And here he is learning. This was the little beach area.
Oh, wait, so there we go.
These little with the beach, the beach chairs, $75 a night or a day. So
boom, beautiful. That's the way. That's how am I doing?
All right. So that's Sam. But as I was mentioning, these umbrellas, you can just rent the umbrella for $30 an hour, or you can rent the umbrella in all of the 2 chairs and umbrella and everything for $75 a day. Again, you got to get down at like 7:30 in the morning because they reserve them. They hang little reservation tickets here, and they pick them up at 5 every evening. But it's a way to keep yourself cooler on the beach if you're going to be spending the whole day at the beach. So we did do that one day, the day he was surfing. So we had a place to come back and forth to. That is the frontal view of the oceanfront rooms. So when you have an oceanfront room, this is the view you're going to see. I put this in place because right now there's only about 1/3 of these chairs, and these chairs are put in groups of 2, and they're spaced 6 feet apart. So if you are going to Oahu, specifically the Waikiki area, know that all of your pool areas, they don't take reservations. It's a first come, first serve. But once someone is there early in the morning and these seats get taken by the person putting their towels and things down, you either have to hang out at the beach or just hang out at the pool without a chair. So that happened a couple times to us when we first arrived. I'm a pool person, not a sandy beach person. So that's important to me personally. Others didn't care. They just hung out on the beach and brought their own towels and beach areas, these little sand. You can buy these at Amazon. You'll see this little sand blanket that's doesn't attract sand. It's really nice. You can usually pick these up before you go for maybe $15. And we did have one that my kids used and my husband, because he loves the beach. And then you can rent surfboards everywhere. And that was Sam. He got up, he got on the waves, so I was happy about that. We also visited Pearl Harbor, which is one of the main reasons people will go to Oahu. You can do a Pearl Harbor tour from other islands like the Big Island or Maui, but you do have to get up really early. Because you have to hop on a Hawaiian airline flight that's about 40 minutes. And you are going to want to make sure that you get to the airport early because the lines are up to 2 hours. So if your tour in Pearl Harbor is at 7:30, you have to take usually a 6 o'clock flight. So you got to be there at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning to get on the flight. So that's important to know. We did see the USS Arizona and the Missouri, where they actually ended and signed the peace treaty with Japan. So my oldest son is a history buff and a history major, and so it was important for us to see that. And it was just amazing being on the Missouri and seeing how many people that they had on there in that small little space. This is actually the spot where they signed the formal surrender. And then, like I mentioned, we did a food tour. Food tours, I think, are a great way for you to get to know the locals. This is Lanai Tabura. He's a chef and a Food Network guy, and he does private local tours around Hawaii to teach people about the Hawaiian culture, the Hawaiian food style versus the actual Hawaiian food, because there's a difference between Hawaiian style and the actual food that they make as native Hawaiians. So one of the best places you can get poke in all of Hawaii is Foodland. I know it sounds weird, but he took us to the grocery store. We actually had, this is all poke, different types of poke. And by like 12:30 in the afternoon, all of this is sold out because all the locals come and buy this for their lunches. He also took us to Young's Fish Market. This is where we had our local traditional Hawaiian plate, like the kind you would have at a luau, only prepared just a little differently. Still prepared with the, pig in the ground, but it was a little different. You can eat at a lot of Michelin star restaurants. We happened to go to Duke's Bistro. Know right now when you go to a lot of the restaurants in the Oahu, Waikiki area, they are locked and you have to dial and show proof of a vaccination card. Some restaurants are not taking the COVID-19 testing because it's not within the hours or whatever. So I just wanted to mention that because in Maui, we didn't see this. We didn't have this issue, but we did once we were on the island of Oahu, and I believe it's because the COVID numbers were up quite a bit while we were there. This was one of the more Japanese prepared dishes that we had when we were there. And we are at the top of the hour, so I can't believe I got it all in, but I enjoyed Hawaii, and I just want to share with you Mark Almond's quote, "You don't have to live in Hawaii or even be a Hawaiian to embrace the aloha spirit." Hawaii has the most hospitable, generous people you will ever meet in, I think, the entire world. So if you haven't been to Hawaii, I hope I've encouraged you to go. And any of us ladies on this evening's virtual vacation would be happy to help you. So make sure you reach out to us.
I just wanted to add one thing, Candace, from my client's experience, and that was the Polynesian Cultural Center, which is on the North Shore, well, almost to the North Shore of Oahu. And for those of you who don't know, it is a, for lack of a better word or lack of better description, it's kind of a tour through all the Polynesian nations in one spot. It's almost like the Disney version of, only it's authentic. It's not cartoonified or anything like that. And it is owned by Brigham Young University and the Mormon Church. But what they have is they have different levels of luau's, and separately they have 6 Polynesian villages that you tour, and you can do the canoe rides, and you can see the different cultures and all of the presentations that describe, and everyone in the villages is authentic, native to that culture, whatever their cultural background is. And then at the end of the evening, on a separate ticket, usually you can do it on a separate ticket, but right now because of COVID, you have to have purchased some sort of a meal. They have the Breath of Life show, which is their fire show in a big auditorium. But beyond just the Hawaiian luau, they have, again, all of the Polynesian nations represented in the show, and it's quite the production. A lot of people on Oahu believe that doing that show is actually more in keeping with what most people think of as a luau, whereas they have 2 different luau levels, and then they have a buffet dinner is another option. And the 2 luau's are sold out through October, but you can still get kind of close in within 2 weeks or so. You can get the buffet, so you have your dinner, but then you go to the Breath of Life along with the people who already went to a luau, but it was just really a luau dinner. So don't be discouraged if you had your heart set on a particular luau. You probably can get into the Polynesian Cultural Center, and it is definitely worth the trip. So
That's a great point. Thank you for adding that. So are there any questions? I wasn't able to look into the chat or the Q&A. Did you see anything?
We were pretty much, Angela and I were kind of answering the few that came in. I'm not sure everyone saw one question though that was asked and we answered. There was a little confusion about how old or how young you have to still have a COVID test. And both Angela and I believe it's 5 and over if you don't have proof of vaccination. That's what you understand too, right, Candace?
Yeah, I know there's been talk, and you're going to want to just continue to work with someone who's, in the know, or look at the safe travel updates with Hawaii. There's been talk to take it down to 2, age 2, but I haven't seen that yet on the website. The governor, while we were there, because the COVID numbers went up and they only have 1 major hospital, I think they had 600 cases, which doesn't sound like a lot to some people. If you're in metro areas like mine in Detroit, we had numbers way over that many times. But because they only have 1 major hospital for all of the islands, and it's on Oahu, the governor put in no more than 10 people gathering locally and a bunch of other things. He kind of stepped back on some of the rules that he had had previously at the beginning of the year, but it was only for the Hawaiian people, not for the tourists, which I found kind of interesting, but that was good because while we were there, we didn't really feel like there was any kind of change. Also, once the governor reaches 70% Hawaiians vaccinated, he mentioned that he was looking to lift and remove all of the safety protocols, whether you were vaccinated or unvaccinated, from the mainland. We haven't seen that happen yet, and he hasn't said if it's going to be happening anytime soon, but that's what he had published on the Safe Hawaiian Travel Protocol page. So.
Amy also had a question. She wanted to know if any of us have any tips or things to do in Kona. That's really not my area of expertise, so I don't know if Angela or Candace, if you want to respond to that.
Yeah, I have a client going to the Big Island in a couple weeks, actually. So the Big Island's huge. It's about 5 times the size of Maui and Oahu, to kind of give you a perspective. So it's very, very large. And in order to do everything that, would require it's quite a bit of driving distance to do anything. But obviously one of the biggest things to do on the Big Island is Volcanoes National Park, which is about 2 to 3 hours from Kona, but is a great day trip. Seeing the stars, there's some nighttime stargazing hikes and opportunities you can do on one of the summits there. They have a really cool nighttime kind of swim with, I think it's manta rays experience. That's awesome. As well as there's waterfalls to go see, all sorts of, ATVs. It's got the world's best helicopter tour. I think it's rated every year the world's best. It's about a 2-hour helicopter tour though, so it is long. And if you're afraid of helicopters, it might not be the best for you, but it is a great experience. So the Big Island gets often overlooked by the other 3, Maui, Oahu, and Kauai. But if you are an adventure lover, it's a great island.
It's also a great island destination for photographers. My husband's an astrophotographer and into drone flying, and you can take your drone there. You have to be careful if you own a drone, all the rules. You have to watch where the airports are and all of that fun stuff. But that's another wonderful place if you have anyone into photography, especially astrophotography. All right, anything else? Well, great.
Last call, everybody.
Great job, Candace.
Thank you, ladies, and thanks for attending this evening. This will again be up on our YouTube channels and other ways if you want to catch it on a replay. You'll also be able to use the link for the next 2 weeks to watch the replay. So if you want to forward information to your friends and have them log in and register to watch the replay or to download it, feel free to do that. And we will see you guys next month when we have another virtual vacation. Heidi, are you hosting that one, or is Maria hosting that one?
I am unmuted. Okay. I believe it is I don't have it in front of me, but there is going to be one the first or second week. Very soon it's going to be posted. That's going to have a live element again.
Okay.
But each area is going to be up to, I don't know, Candace, if you'll end up, or Angela, you will. And I haven't completely settled on what the destination is. I have to get a restaurant. So as soon as I have a restaurant and it lines up, then but I think it's going to be a US location.
Oh, good.
Just because that maybe has a little cultural flair to it like maybe New Mexico. It might be
Okay.
focused on New Mexico. And then I'll find, even though don't kill me, anybody. I am fully aware. My son graduated from the University in New Mexico. New Mexican food is not Mexican food. I know that, but we can fudge it a little. Okay. So yeah, yeah.
Tex-Mex-ish.
Yeah, Tex-Mex, yeah, whatever. And the reason that I'm probably going to be doing a U.S. destination is because, quite frankly, we are getting rumblings that things are changing again, and we'd rather not go through a whole big exciting thing and get you all jazzed up for somewhere we can't send you. So we're playing a little bit to the side of caution. Plus, there's some amazing places in the U.S. that I kind of like to play. Maybe I might even have a little game in there, something like, can you guess where this is? International or domestic? Because there are some places in the US that I would challenge you to tell me whether it's domestic or international. So we're going to have some fun with it, whatever we do. So just watch for the announcement on our meetup sites and other places, coming to you soon in a couple weeks.
Great. All right. Well, thanks everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Good night.